Do age limits versus term limits impact the trust factor?
We're not process oriented about that in the U.S. as they are in the U.K., where it's 9 years and you're out, or 9 years and you have to write a letter Y, and firm age limits. If you look, it's not so apparent. It's not so apparent these days, but for the 10 years ending a couple of years ago, the predominant proxy vote for shareholders was raising the retirement age. So it went from like 67 to 75, and I guess people thought they could stop then, because it's never really a hard and fast retirement age. It is oftentimes when you hit the age, submit your resignation, and we will determine as a board whether we accept it or not accept it. I do feel there is a link between tenure served on boards and truly independent thinking. And I don't think that link applies equally to everybody. I think it's asymmetrical. I think some people are phenomenal at bringing in that fresh perspective, whether they've been on a board for a year or for 10 years or for more than 10 years. But we do tend to worry about that. And we do tend to perhaps have a bit of complacency about, this person may be getting on in years, they may be less fresh thinking, but we really like them and they're good for the board for all these reasons, and not looking at the frame from the other side, which is, what could somebody new and different bring to this board? So, I think it's always easy to look around the table and say, I like what I got. And that's a good thing. And never say, I wish that person was replaced. I don't know with whom yet, but I bet I could find somebody better. So, I think it's all judgment at the end of the day. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that feel very strongly there should be age limits or term limits. I've seen it work, and I've seen it not work. So I would rather just be pragmatic about it, knowing that we have the power to make decisions as the board and as the Nom/Gov committee, and knowing, by the way, that the ultimate decision is the shareholder vote.
All right.
So just real quick, I would say, back to process and what's in the report, and maybe some things that could be stronger in the report. A rigorous director performance review process and tight alignment between where the company is going and what it needs in governance against who's on the board today, and the courage to refresh the board irrespective of tenure or age is, to me, the right solution. Age and tenure become easy ways to say it's really hard to tell someone to leave the board.
Okay. Answer questions in 2 minutes
one
or less,
thing.
because we're going to have a lot of questions now.
Okay, just to say, that's another thing that should be normalized. We should all be looking at ourselves and saying, am I still fit for this board? I know I was 5 years ago. Have circumstances changed?
All right. Okay. So two minutes or less, so we get through all these questions that just come in. Now I've lost my train here. Founder CEOs, same issue in terms of building trust. Is there a different standard that applies when you have a founder CEO, which is always more complicated?
Well, I think context matters. I think the principles of trust building transcend the context, but you've got to understand the context you're operating in. And every founder is probably different in his or her approach to things, and has different levels of stature and structure that they can make decisions around. So I think you've got to understand that context to address appropriately not just the founder, but helping him or her put the right level of diverse perspectives around them as well.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of having this type of talk at Stanford Women on Boards a couple of months ago, which was about the BRC. And it was eye-opening coming from the East Coast, which is very process-oriented, to be in Stanford and to hearing people say, we are the founders, we choose our board, and we tell them what we think we need them to know. Because so there's a geographic aspect to this as well. But I do think the person who asked the question about, CEOs pick their boards, I think that is predominant in the founder landscape, and I think that it does change things for the temperature and the culture of that board, and you should have your eyes wide open. It could be very perfect for you or not, but there is a different tempo, there is a different attitude, and boy, on the West Coast, there's a whole different language about governance.
Here's an interesting question. You've established trust, and then complacency kicks in. Like most relationships, you've got to work at a relationship every day. How do you not let complacency take over what was once a trusting relationship and now just sort of things?
Well, I think that there's an accountability process, again, to be explicit about holding each other to a set of high standards and being explicit about those high standards, because without that, things can drift pretty easily. And then I think in today's world, there are enough catalysts that show up that cause crisis, challenge, or opportunity, that if you are in a complacent place, you're going to feel the downside, of that. But I think one of the best things you can do is have accountability partners on, you said you were going to do X, are you really doing it or not?
Yeah, keep bringing it up all the time. One CEO I supported used to say, this is a Stephen Covey comment, trust is built in drops and spilled in buckets. Trust often breaks down in a crisis. Can you discuss your thoughts on keys to a good relationship during a crisis?
Yeah, I'll come back to, I've said this before, but the day that you want to meet your neighbor is not the day that your dog climbs over the fence and pulls their laundry down, right? So, being prepared ahead of time, matters a lot. And I think you just have to keep building those relationship behaviors in order to be able to have best intentions expected and then honored when you get to times of crisis. But then I would tell you from a process standpoint, transparency, frequency, good, bad, and the ugly, asking for help are, we don't have all the answers, are all good kind of behavior tactics that say, yes, we have confidence that we're going to manage through this, but we're not overly confident, and we're willing to take help from the board to work our way through that. I also think that you can create crisis matrices that say, when these types of things are happening, we're going to handle in management till it gets to here. We've got a good monitoring setup, and when they get past that, then we're going to inform you more regularly. And when they get past this stop, then we're going to bring you in to become the decision makers for that. And then looking across at you want to call it the 8 to 10 different cross currents that are floating around, and applying that same escalation to each one of those items sets up a framework, ahead of time.
And sometimes crisis happens. I serve on mining company boards, as was mentioned at the beginning, and we have had fatalities. And the fatalities get communicated to the board by email immediately when the CEO finds out, the board finds out. The responses to that email are really interesting because the whole board has responded, then people respond one by one. And how you frame that response, have we reached out to the families? This is, very sad to hear this. What are we doing? How are we? Or is it, how did this happen? What's going to happen? It really does inform the next few stages of the recovery from the crisis situation. As I said, it is inevitable that something unforeseen happens. How you react to it, how you're mindful of how your words land, whether they're written, how your facial expressions land, if you're on a video call, all of this is noticed, all of this is taken in, and all of those cues cascade, somebody used the word cascade, down to say, how should we bring up bad information? So it really, really matters. I
think when that's done well, and you brought up a really kind of challenging situation, we'll call it an employee death from whatever source, which we had our share of as well. It actually can strengthen the trust bonds when you manage that type of a process well with empathy and care. It demonstrates the culture of the company and how you show up in an important time.
Yeah.